Here's a question. Why is it so hard to send a text for emergencies instead of a 911 call? In Illinois, some municipalities are among only a handful of police and fire dispatchers across the country equipped to answer 911 texts for help. Barbara Pinto reports on the patchwork of places you can text for help and the growing pressure for nationwide access to this technology.
911, what's your emergency?
Oh, yeah, we have a school shooting.
In the most dire emergencies, calling 911 can be a dangerous decision. For college students hiding from a gunman at this deadly shooting in Seattle, and also in cases of domestic violence. Cordelia Pottinger Walters knows firsthand.
You need to be verbally saying something which you're going to be overheard. How do you get away with that? It's very difficult because usually abusers they're not too far behind. They're watching you.
Cordelia's life now in the corporate world is a far cry from 27 years ago when she was a young mother married to an abusive man who kidnapped and threatened their 3-month-old child.
If texting ability was there then, I could probably have texted while he was there before he even left the house with my child.
But decades later, little has changed. In an era where text messaging is possible with just about anyone, only 5% of the nation's emergency dispatch centers have the ability to receive texts made to 911.
Evanston 911, where's your emergency?
Evanston police were among the first in Illinois to adopt the technology. Since 70% of the 911 calls dispatchers answer here come from cell phones, handling texts was a natural next step.
Information out of Chicago on that armed robbery.
Perry Polinsky is communications coordinator for Evanston Police 911 Dispatch.
I think a lot of people just assume that the capability is there, but again, if you're in an area of the state or the country that has not provisioned for text 911 service, you can't use it.
In places where text 911 service does not exist, emergency texters get this bounce-back message instructing them to call 911 instead. This map shows the patchwork of places in the greater Chicago area equipped to receive texts for help. Even in municipalities like this one with the capability to handle emergency text messages, the technology has its limits. Longtime dispatcher Rita Falk runs the Northwest Central Dispatch in Arlington Heights, handling police and fire calls for 11 suburban communities. They've answered emergency texts for nearly 2 years now.
The phone call we usually get, if it's a landline, we get their address information. If it's a cell phone, we get their possibly GPS location. With a text message, the way the technology is right now, we don't get necessarily a great location on where they are. This is what dispatchers see when a text for help comes in.
The person could be anywhere within that circle. It's actually a really large circle. We can try and zoom in, but it doesn't always pinpoint. That's the problem with texting, is that we really have no idea exactly where they are.
Texters need to provide detailed location information, and there are other drawbacks. Dispatchers who are trained to gather information from tone of voice and background noise have less information to go on. Stephanie Love Patterson runs Connection for Abused Women and Their Children. Her organization helps nearly 1,000 victims of domestic violence each year, providing shelter, counseling, even free cell phones that abused women are often reluctant to use.
If the perpetrator hears her audibly calling out for help, that could put her in a lot of danger. And so for that reason, a lot of women won't use the phone. But what if he still hears me? Is a terrifying thought for them. So being able to have a phone, a free phone that we give them, and text the number, text 911 and reach out for help would be such an improvement.
Because if I didn't have the chance to reach out for help, I don't know where I would have been right now.
Survivors and advocates for victims of domestic violence are pushing for nationwide adoption of texting 911 in hopes this silent cry for help can save lives.
500, 10-4.
For In the Loop, I'm Barbara Pinto.